While I was with the Baltimore Police Department in the early 2000s, I had two city officers in uniform killed by drug dealers on the street. And there was a family of seven, a Dawson family on Preston Street. They were killed by one drug dealer in one night, mother, father, and five kids. And so as the years in the early 2000s start moving along, I'm continuing to think about this from a place of violence and beginning to realize that our policies of drug prohibition were actually counterproductive to public safety. The one thing that I signed on for to improve, to better public safety in our neighborhoods, was making it worse. And I found a large number of police officers and judges and criminal prosecutors and DEA agents and FBI who think the same way. If Baltimore moved from street corners to online services, oh my God, you know how many shootings, how many fewer shootings we would have every year, which equate to fewer homicides? Number one, it removes the buyer from the back alleys and from the street corners and from those dangerous places of dealing with the seller. Buying it over the internet where it's delivered to you removes you from that scenario.
One of the interesting things that having an online market does is that it makes sellers much more accountable to buyers. And one of the really interesting innovations is the whole review system, where buyers can review the sellers and the items that they bought from these on these marketplaces. And what that does is it makes sellers more accountable, and it gives buyers a way to assess both the quality, the purity, and the potency of the drugs they're getting. It makes these transactions much more safe for the buyers.
But we're shutting them down, attempting to shut them down, because we will never shut them down. We've been at this drug war now for over 4 decades. And what has happened since then? At the beginning, it was just the cartels and organized crime making a ton of money. Today, they make globally $322 billion off of this industry. Corporate America is also now in the game. Private prisons, okay, Corrections Corporation of America. About a year ago, they gave out $675 million in dividends to the shareholders. Drug testing companies, it's now become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And who gets tested? Those who are in prison or under the control of our criminal justice programs on parole and probation. So corporate America is making a lot of money. What about law enforcement? Law enforcement's making a ton of money. The government's 1033 program, where we get armored vehicles and machine guns and whatever we want of the surplus military equipment, that's because of the drug war.
Over the years, we've seen these huge bureaucracies build up around the drug war, around prosecuting the drug war. You've got the Drug Enforcement Agency, you've got the Office of National Drug Control Policy. So a lot of the opposition is just rooted in self-interest among places like the FBI and the DEA, where if you're telling somebody who's been in the FBI for 30 years that drugs are no longer a priority, that's an existential threat to them. That kind of takes away their whole reason for existence.